Hi guys, welcome back for a new video. This is the list I played in this league. The main changes has been third Pyroclasm over Gitu Slinger, and then I also tried to play two Eradametry in the sideboard. This card has been tested a lot lately. I'm still not sure if it's worth or not to have in the sideboard. I tried in the main deck, but I really didn't like it. But maybe it's more about play style than anything else. I think it's really good into slide, but I can't decide if it's good also against Ponza strategies like Gifu or green-red. Definitely good against red pawns, but that's a different kind of deck. I'm not sure it's good also against Terrageddon. The times I played against it, I really didn't like the double green for them. And that's it. Other slot are the usual one, Sword Plowshare, Crumble. This is something that can be easily changed with something else. Then we have the package against control deck, Duracell Swarm. Then just other silver bullet like Gutabi and Monk. And then we have classic Naturalizing Crumble as a catch-all for different matchups. First match of the league, we are against Birdman. I thought that he could probably be on Barn, but I still decided to keep this end. It's a good end, winning on turn 3. So I kept, but it didn't end well, so he was on Barn, and I still tried to play the Termit Druid, since I had a couple of unearthed, draw the third one, and I thought that maybe trying to get time, and at the same time, if everything goes well, being able to win through Hermit Druid could be a decent shot, given what we draw. And this is usually not the best strategy against slide deck, because basically every card in their deck can interact with Hermit Druid. But when you keep a hand like that, I think it's a better shot to try to do this than just holding cards in hand forever and hope to draw a survival. So this is what I did. Yeah, play the Wolf Roots as a blocker, and then reanimate the Hermit Druid. Use the Mock Fanatic, and then as a ball light. So just take 6 and then reanimate again. Yeah, I also played the bird just a champ block, but he had another removal. At this point, every single damage that he would do to Hermit Druid would have just killed me, because they used 2 Lavamancer activation that would have been 4 damage to me, and then a couple of Mock Fanatic that could have attack, dealt damage, so at least I saved me 6 damage, more likely 7 or 8. But then at this point it's really hard to catch up to the game. Yeah, the survival. But as I said, it's a survival, and if we didn't unearth the Hermit Druid, he would use his resources pinging me, so I would have probably be dead before actually using their survival. Also, I think I almost always painless sources, maybe except for one. He still has 1 card in hand, 1 Lavaman activation. I think at this point, if we didn't did this, we would have just been dead before playing the survival. Just draw lands, more lands, and Lavaman activation end step, go to 7, 1 card in hand. Yes, super dead in this spot. So we lost game 1. For game 2, I saw a lot of creature, so I brought in a couple of Pyroclasm, not all 3. I brought in 2 Eladamris and also the Octabio. I setted out 1 Duress, 2 Cabal Therapy and 2 Hermitruid. This is what I did. Let's see, I think we are going to 3 cards end versus Slide on 7. This league gonna be really long because every single game went to game 3. So this is gonna be really interesting. Also here we draw 2 creatures in a row, and this has been really good. And what we can do here? Here actually we have an interesting spot, because we can either discard Shifter, get a Palinchron, hope to draw the blue land, and go for that. We can also try to get Squee online, but I don't see we have much time because we are on 11, then this is gonna be up down to 9. He has 2 activation, so this is like 6 damage on board. We are actually on 5, and with a Painland in play, it's not the best. So let's see what I did here. Yeah, I hoped to draw a blue source, and I did. So in this spot my opponent can still interact with the Seal of Fire, because here actually he didn't, but what he could have done was activate Seal of Fire before me looking for Triskelion. So as we saw also in other videos, this is like a common scenario, but I would have to activate the Pyrexan Devourer, the Shifter Devourer, to try to make this unkillable by the Seal of Fire. So it would not have been a deterministic kill, but in this spot it was, because I already have Triskelion in hand. I can just pump the Shifter and then as usual discard Triskelion and kill my opponent. So we took this line and yeah, we just won, hoping to do the blue source on a Mold 3. Game 3, still no Eladamris in our opening hand, but this is a really reasonable keep. I brought in also the Sword to Plowshare. I think it's a good card to have it. Also, yeah, because I cut a couple of words here. I think it's a good card to have in the sideboard. It's a catch-all for a lot of different matchups. It's good against Terrageddon, against Dreadnought, against Jackal Pup or Lightning. It's good against Wayfarer. The problem is that it's white, so you often set it in and then don't have the white mana to cast it. So that's the downside. But it's a one-off I like to have in the deck. So here he's committing a lot to the board. I decided to play a Wall of Fruits to block and hoping to waste some resources on it, and this is what actually happened. So once again I tried to bait with the drone Unearth to bait the crypt. If he took the bait, I could have wait a turn, play the survival, and then just try to go for the Palinchron line. Instead, he didn't, and I think this is actually even better for us, because now we have Warrior Shapeshifter that we can play with the mana we have. So, end of turn, we can discard a Squee to get a Devourer, to get Elvish Spirit Guide, or even another wall if we want. So we can start trying to build our combo turn. Also, we are really light on life because he wasted 2 cards basically to kill our wall, and then he may just let us reanimate it. So once again, now if I attack with Jackal Pup, I will probably block with the wall and make him waste Grim Lavamancer activation, but also taking 2 damage since we are high on life is still relevant because we can try to offer him the trade end of turn, making him use a Lava Dart and a Grim Lavamancer to kill the wall after we activate the Squee. We activate the survival discarding Squee. So this is a choice we're gonna make later. Here he attack, so I decided to go for that. I think this is wrong for him to attack with the Lavamancer too, but makes sense if you want just to flashback a Lava Dart on the wall roads. And once again, we are totally fine with this trade. We can just fetch another wall roots and go from there. I didn't. I draw the wall, so basically here I end up with two blockers, and they even have the Sword to Plowshare for the ball lightning, so this was perfect, and we can actually set up next turn. So probably here would just been good to go for the third wall or Elvish Spirit Guide, basically, as we said before. Yeah, he wanted to use that, so it's totally fine for us. He also used the Crypt. I think with 4 cards in hand, 17 life points, and opponent with less card than us, we are just good. Let's see what I'm doing. I just probably decided not to even bother to try to combo, but just reanimate Chroma and go from there. It's quite little. I don't think he can kill us before we kill him, but at the same time, if you activate Lavamancer on our Hermit Druid, we can discard Devourer and try to go from there. There are so many choices here, and yeah, we even draw Triskelion, so perfect draws. And yes, this is super little. Okay, and our opponent concede. Matchup number 2. We opened our first hand with nothing on it, so we move down to 6, and this is a nice turn 3 combo. So our opponent named Survival of the Fittest, so we just can deploy the Hermit Druid, and probably our opponent didn't draw removal for an Hermit Druid, and they just decided to concede. So he's probably on Moneyball. Game number 2 against Moneyball. I usually tend to keep every 7 that's playable, let's say. He named Survival, I named Wretch, he got my Survival, I got his Wretch. And at this point we just start and watching each other, so we know his hand is Smother and Dystopia. And yeah, this is not a good spot to be in. And he top decker, okay, another Spectre. And then I just play Hermit Druid, hoping for him to smother it, and then being able to play somehow the Shapeshifter. Here I decided to reanimate the Shapeshifter because there was no point to reanimate the Druid, it would have just been a target for Dystopia, so I went from there. Here I can discard the Palinchron and Champ one. So at this point I have 0 cards in hand and a 4-5, and my opponent has a 2-2. So these are decent, I think. But the issue is that I can't do anything basically, because if if they draw a discard spell and I'm dead, if I jump, it's really risky. Playing a Wall of Fruits is risky because turn on Smother. So yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. We don't have many decisions to make. He names Druid, so this is actually good for him to name. And then he draw another Wretch. So basically, this was a little draw because now we can't anymore jump the Spectre. We have a 5. It just means a couple of turns and we are dead. And basically, we can't even combo off. So we are just dead. I forgot to speak about the sideboard in this matchup. So usually against other deck, I tend to mulligan to Army Druid or Survival, even if it means going down to 4 cards in hand. Against this card deck, and especially against Moneyball, you can't really do that, because they are full of interaction, discard spell, removal, and also they pressure a lot. So I just keep hands that have lands to play spells that they're gonna top deck. What I did here was cutting a couple of birds to have to add all 3 Pyroclasm. I added a sword, a Ray of Revelation, both for Plague and Dystopia. I didn't brought in Crumble and Naturalize because if they have Cursed Scroll or Furnace or Crypt, I hope to play around that. I even cut one Hermit Druid because if I'm forced to Pyroclasm, it's not good. If they have Dystopias, Modder, Wretch, Graveyard Rate is not good, so I'm fine to go down to 7. To 7 threat for survival and 3 druids. And in general, when you're playing against Moneyball, you have to try to put yourself to play a long game against them. So if you open an hand with a lot of creature or a lot of interaction, you just keep it and hope to live long enough to draw your combo pieces. Cabal Therapy, I cut a couple of them, and also a Duress, because there's no really much of this card. You're gonna just end play a top deck war. So let's see. Your best scenario is your opponent going land Ritual Spectre. He just decided to play Wretch anyway, so he just plow it, and they top deck a Survivor. This is what I said before. So here they can discard all our creatures, but yeah, I don't think it's. I think it's good if they don't have anything, but yeah, they just had 2 lands, so we had interaction for that, and I think this is just super little. There's a thousand lines here, yeah, and he just conceded. So not the best show for him, but definitely show the idea of how to approach the matchup. Just top deck, you're not gonna have an end, a functional end, so hope to top deck. Our creatures are not even that bad if we have lands to cast them, like Karmic Guide, basically champ forever, whatever they use to attack except for Factory. Walls do the same except for Hippies. Psychotog is decent. Squeak and Champ if they attack with Hippie. It connect in the discard, return to hand, so we are always gonna make them have a 50-50 chance to discard what we draw the Squeak. I think it's the good approach. This is match 3. I don't know why you already have a spoiler here, but replay on MTGO has been a bit weird lately. I remember that this opponent was playing Cephalid Breakfast. Anyway, the Terravor deck. So, what we do here? Here we named Reanimate with Cabal Therapy, and we missed. What we see is Exhum. So his end is not lethal the next turn, unless they top deck a land. But also our end is not lethal the next turn. Because if we play Survival here, we don't have mana, we don't have an earth, we don't have a way to convert the Survival into a win on turn 3. So here the safe choice would be to target our opponent with another Cabal Therapy, remove the Exhum, play the Wall of Roots, play the Bird of Paradise, and hope to slow them down enough for us to assemble our win. They draw the land, so all this doesn't really matter, because here they can just activate their Hermit Druid in end step and then put back in their upkeep Reanimate with Cross Reclamation and kill us. So not many choices we could have done here. Also removing the Hermit Druid at this point is not relevant anymore. I just try to build an absurd amount of mana. If for some reason they decided to not go for it, and here don't ask me why it showed that I win the game, because I'm quite sure that here I conceded, because I realized that enough mana. But anyway, this game was lost. So game 2. We have a turn 3 if we draw an end, or a turn 4 if we don't. We even draw the Cabal Therapy. I missed. I cast a Name Sword to Plowshares, because the only interaction that can have usually is the plow. Going for that interaction with the Hermit Druid was the correct choice. So here I took both Nomads, and I can activate the Druid in end step, put back Anemic Dead, then flash back the Hermit Druid, naming once again Sword to Plowshares, and then try to win. I think that our opponent the turn before could have played the Hermit Druid instead of the Cephalid, because if he top deck any sort of reanimation spell, it would have been lethal. So I'm not sure why he did this, but yeah. Cross Reclamation is a card that in this Hermit Druid mirror is always interesting, because your opponent can have it in hand, and then you just die. So he had the Terravor, he drew the Terravor, so it didn't matter. But I definitely think that playing the Hermit Druid on turn 2 was better than just go for the Cephalid. Here I'm not sure actually what is happening, because yeah, you also see here playback finished exciting. I'm not I have no idea what's going on with the replay on MTGO right now. I'm gonna publish the league anyway, but here once again I of course just went for the Pyrex and Devourer combo, but yeah, I would have exiled the card,
as you can see, and then kill him with the Triskelion. I don't know. Match number 3. We have a really good end here with Plow 2, but yeah, we draw a white source, so this come really clutch, but because otherwise I feel that would have lost. So seeing this Pyroclasm also remember me that I didn't play about my sideboard strategy. I brought in a couple of Pyroclasm. I sided out the Duress because it's really not what the matchup is about. I cut one bird and the Wall of Roots because I want to interact with him with my discard because I'm a bit slower than him, especially my survival plan. Instead, his whole plan is about playing creature and trying to go off on turn 3. So that's why I did these choices. Here, playing the survival on turn 2 unlocked me a win on turn 3, just because I had the shapeshifter in hand. Here, what I can do is in my turn, discard shifter, get Palinchron, discard Palinchron, get Phyrexian Devourer, for example, and then just trying to combo off. My opponent is holding up 2 mana. What he can do with this 2 mana is, of course, not a removal on survival, because he would have used that. Could be a Cross Reclamation, or could be a Plow. I think that this point in the game, I have to go for my kill, because there's really no reason to try to sandbag it too long. Yeah, he had the Cross Reclamation, so that's okay. What I can do here is just or trying to go again for the combo. Example is discarding the Devourer and going back, trying to put back combo hFEB combo pieces in my hand. Or what I can do is also discard the Hermit, discard. What I can do here is or discard the Hermit, bring back in my hand the Shapeshifter, and then just hope to draw a land and kill my opponent. Or I can try to discard the Devourer and set up a combo kill in a couple of turns. Or I can also don't do anything and just play the Hermit Druid. Playing the Pyroclasm will not be great here, because with Nomad they can just redirect the damage, and I would lose. So let's see what I decided to do here. We have a lot of choices, and I think all of them would be good. So here I discarded the Hermit Druid, and I try to draw land and win, but I don't. Yeah, just pass the turn. He has nothing in hand, I assume. So I just put Triskelion in my hand, upkeep, untap, and win. So here we saw that having survival in play is always super strong, and not having the Gitu's Linger was not the best. What we take from these games, I think that playing combo is always a strange experience in this format, because often you are just watching the opponent, hoping for them to not combo before you, especially because in many games you have to sacrifice some cards in your deck to play interaction, but you can't overload your deck with interaction because you also need the combo pieces. So it's always interesting and difficult to sideboard for me in the combo matchups.
Match number 4. We open a really good hand because we have discard turn 1 to see if the cost is clear. If it's clear, we can just go land Hermit Druid. If it's not, we can Cabal Therapy, and then on turn 3 play Hermit Druid. So this is a really solid start. Mana base is not the best. I would like a black producing land like Painland, but we have just a mine, so we have to work with this. Our opponent is on Aluren. We just Duress, and what we saw, we discard a Chain of Vapor, and their end is basically nothing because they have Manowar, Raven Familiar, Island, and they top deck something here. So bad end, I'd say. Here we top deck the perfect card to win on turn 3. So this totally reasonable to just go Hermit Druid and try to win the next turn. They decided to not bounce my my creature for some reason. So I casted another Cabal Therapy, naming again Chain of Vapor, and his end was this Intuition, Soul Warden, Manowar. So I understand now why he didn't cast the Manowar. He wanted to hope I couldn't win this turn, so he could have went Intuition, find 3 Aluren, and then just going infinite life with Soul Warden and Manowar. So he took the correct line to try to beat me, but instead I had the Nerd in hand. So I wonder if he saw the Intuition with the first Cabal Therapy, with the first Duress, but we didn't, right? No. So his top deck were Intuition and Soul Warden. So basically perfect top deck to win from there. And yes, I'm not sure. I think I misclicked somewhere. I don't see the karmic guide in my graveyard. Sometimes oh, it's here. So I think I might have misclicked, or anyway we have Psychotog in hand, so we could have just didn't matter to order the graveyard because we had Psychotog in hand, so we could have simply sacrificed the Hermit, targeting with Cabal Therapy, target out self, naming Psychotog, discard Psychotog, and then just win by exiling cards from graveyard, revealing a Chroma, and attacking for little. I don't think with Intuition he can add to end anything relevant, because he just had 1 or 2 green after Intuition Resolve. So yeah, this was quite safe. Game 2 against Aluren. I think it was a mistake here to sideboard without the Elvish Spirit Guide, because they can be really fast and they don't have interaction for our Survival and Hermit beside the Chain of Vapor. So trying to play a fast turn 1 win con and go from there would have been good. I cut the 3 Wall of Fruits and added in Monk, Ray, another enchant removal, denaturalize, and just try to combo off before they do. This hand is decent. If they have Aloran, we can just play Monk in response to their first creature and destroy Aloran. We can even play Shapeshifter with Aloran before doing that, so that's perfect. And yeah, also drawing a second land would have been basically game winning, I'm quite sure. Because he play Aloran, I play a Shapeshifter and a Monk. Monk resolves, so the two cards in hand were basically nothing, I think. And at this point I just have to top deck a land. If I top deck a land, I win. If I don't, I lose. And I said that every every games this league would have gone to game 3, so you can imagine I never draw a land for the rest of the game. He found another Aloran, Cavern Harpy, Raven Familiar. I just flashback a squid for the memes and wait to see his win con. So just reveal me a Captrus or a Soul Warden to go Infinite Life. Okay, yeah, he found the Captrus and I'm dead. Game 3, I kept the same sideboard as Game 2, but I opened a hand that could win on turn 3. So I'm on the draw. I thought that this hand is isn't enough to keep. He had the chain, and then the next turn I can just replay the Hermit Druid, and that's it. I even draw a Duress. So we saw that his hand at this point was Cavern Harpy, Man of War, Raven Familiar. He decided to play a Man of War, bouncing the Hermit Druid, so a perfectly fine tempo play. But at this point he needed a land and Aloran to win. So top deck. He had to top deck, instead I have everything I need in hand. Here I think also played the Bird of Paradise, yeah, because it was free and more mana. He didn't draw the Aloran, so at this spot, if he don't have interaction, I'm just winning. Here, if I untap, yes, if I untap with Vermin Druid in this spot, I want to play around everything I can. That means I want to play around Chain of Vapor, basically, because, as I said, it's the only interaction they have. And I think that Upkeep Permit, Cross and Reclamation, just the Animate Dead is totally fine. Also, let's counter mana, so at this point we can Cross and Reclamation also a couple of Unearth or 2 cards, because we have already 1 reanimation in hand. And what we want to do is sacrifice our board to try to snipe every kind of interaction they can have. So let's see what the end would be. I cause a reclamation just the Animate Dead, and I name Chain of Vapor with the Cabal Therapy, and his end was Man of War, Chain Show, and Cavern Harpy. So probably he took the Man of War with the Raven Familiar, because otherwise I think he should have played these two to tempo me once again, and then I can just go for Animate Dead and win from there. Don't know why this happened, but we won. Trophy match, match number 5. We opened a 7-card hand with just 1 land, So I decided to mulligan to 6, 5, 4. So I think here is reasonable, yes, to keep 2 lands and survival and a creature. So duress, discuss survival, but I top deck another one, so perfect. And we can just hoping to draw a relevant spell. Also land at this point are good enough if our opponent doesn't rust our survival, but looks like it what he gonna do, but he misclick, so this misclick is probably just lethal for him, because we can go discard Skellion, get Devourer, discard Devourer, get Karmic Guide, discard Guide, get Shapeshifter, and reanimate everything. Yeah, you can just throw a Tog in there, because our opponent has these 2 lands untapped, and clearly is not naturalized. So this is most likely a Smother. We can play around it by letting Shapeshifter enter as a guide, and then bring back Psychotog without bringing back guide too. So let's see if this is what I did. Yes, and then just remove the guide, and he had the Smother. Okay, so it's hard to try to remember why you did something while MTGO keep going at the speed as you see you see right now, so like double X speed, but it's still interesting. I think here, if he had a Sudden Verdict, for example, if he fired it with the Karmic Guide trigger on the stack, we can just unearth the Shapeshifter back. If yeah, there is no other moment where he can fire an Edict, because if he casts an Edict instead of this model, we could have just done the same here. So perfect draw for us. He misclicked the Pernicious Deed, so we won on a multi-4. Game number 2 against the Rock. We moved our 7 and we are back to our classic 6 and the start with a duress on our survival. What I sideboarded in? I brought in 1 Pyroclasm. It's not good against Rock, but sometimes it's your only out to a Derange Dermit, or a board full of Bird of Paradise, Nantuko Vigilanti, or other stuff that pressure our life total. I cut a couple of Cabal Therapy because it's not the best. I brought in Monk, I brought in the Octavio Orangutang, also the Ray of Revelation, and the Naturalize. I'm not sure this is the best way to sideboard. Probably I would not bring the Pyroclasma, I prefer the Sword Plowshare. I don't think that both Ray and Monk are needed, because it's really hard that they play Pernicious Deed and leave it on the battlefield. But probably simply Cabal Therapy is a worse card. You never want to play a turn 1 something with his deck full of interaction, so also the second Elvish is not needed, and Vineyard, giving green to their deck is not where I want to be. So let's see what happens. So he had the Duress for the survival and Tormod Script for the Hermit, even for this. So perfect, we draw the Hermit, and we are at the spot where we have to top deck some kind of interaction for their removal. Let's see here Also shapeshifter would be good. Wall of Roots is also good to jump the Tritopo village. So we stall the board a little bit, but our end is is really bad. So we have to draw something. I think at some point playing Karmic Guide is good. Yes, I think this is a mistake, huge mistake, because yes, they can naturalize it first of all, and then they can just remove it with Pyrex and Furnace. Instead, Karmic Guide, yes, gonna cost 10 mana and 2 lives, but it's a 2/2. It's flying, can pressure their life total while holding back walls for the treetop. So this was definitely a mistake to play this Devour. Yeah, also I'm not understanding why I decided to keep the Karmic Guide in hand for all of this turn. Clearly it's not the best creature we can play, but at the same time, for example, here we could have just traded a Treetop Village with Hermit plus Karmic Guide. He also drew another Treetop Village. Basically, at this point, I can stall the board once again with the Butterface Scrounger, because I can hold back both Treetop Village. But now I play the Karmic Guide because I wanted to reanimate something. Makes sense, just to bait some interaction. He drew his fourth Treetop Village. This was just winning in the game, because now we have to once again hope to top deck a creature with at least 1 power, but we draw survival and we just die. I don't know, I think his our opponent draw lined up well with with ours, but yeah, at the same time I think we misplayed a bit with the Karmic Guide and other stuff. Of course, he could have drawn the Smarter 10 turns ago, but he didn't. Trophy match, super trophy match, because it's game 3, and we open a really good end, is what I call this. Can go, yes, Duress, but he can only discard 1. Here definitely we play survival, because yes, he can have another piece of discard, and here we can just set up a win for the next turn, depending on what our opponent does. Get Squee, make him discard the Squee to Cabal Therapy, but here I think our opponent's mistake was to not fire off this Cabal Therapy, because here if you want to survive, you definitely have to use the second Cabal Therapy, sacrifice the wall, and took the other creature or what we gonna fetch, because in this spot we can just go end of turn, discard Palinchron, play Shapeshifter, with Squee take Devourer and do the classic line to win. So our opponent misplayed here, probably. Anyway, we would have a survival in play, and we don't know if he would have had interaction for that. So this is the list we played. What I would like to change, I definitely want Gitu Slinger back in the sideboard. It's just too flexible to have as a survival trigger, so tutor, so we want it. I think there are some slots that you have to keep with this deck. There are some cards you can't decide to cut from the sideboard at this point. Tabi, Bonk, at least one Xantid are the 3 slot you always want to have for the creature. And then the Gitus Linger, I say. So let's call this program the Gitus Linger. So you have 4 creatures you always want. Rage of Revelation, I would not cut it from the sideboard, same as Naturalize, same as a couple of Pyroclasm. So you have 8 cards you always want. I say 1 Swarm because often you're gonna fetch the Swarm with the survival in the games you want it. I'd say you also want the second Swarm because 1 you can fetch, 1 you can draw it, 1 can be removed, the second has to be removed or probably wins you the game. So we basically end up with 6 others missing slot. I think in the 75 you want at least 6 removals because UV Control is a deck that's played, Psychotog is a deck that's played, or other similar version to this deck, so like the 4 color with Moxie's version or other kind of stuff. Also, I think that Duress is often a good exchange with Cabal Therapy. For example, you cut a couple of Cabal Therapy and you play a Duress, so you do the Choo-Choo split. This because some deck has a lot of redundancy, but with these different pieces. I'm thinking about the solution. It's not easy to name the correct card with Cabal Therapy because they have, for example, Bolt, but also Sword to Plowshares. They have Disenchant. They have the Exalted Angel, the Lightning Angel, the Meddling Mage, and all these creatures. All these creatures kills you. So my strategy is that when there is too much to name, I just change 1 Duress with Cabal Therapy. Might not be the best, but I think missing with Cabal Therapy sometimes really kills you. Also, when you cast Cabal Therapy, you have to keep in mind you don't have necessarily to discard the card. Like, you have to name the card that gonna kill you. You don't have to name the card that you are sure your opponent has. So if you have, for example, an Hermit Druid and you're sure that your opponent has a Disenchant, it still makes sense to name the Sword to Plowshares because Disenchant doesn't interrupt you anyway from for your combo plan. And I think, as I said, that missing the card name with Cabal Therapy against this kind of deck with a lot of redundancy can really kill you. So this is why I do this swap. Basically, at this point we have 5 slots in the sideboard. What scares me the most about Vines is that against opponent's deck, if they have a library, they can just not keep lands and just keep spell and start casting them with the green we are giving. So I know it's if they don't remove the survival, Vines plus survival is almost game winning every times, but it's a combination of 2 cards. We already need a lot of combination in our deck. I'm not super sold on this one. I see the potential, but it never impressed me. Of course, if I'm going to play a paper tournament that I know is gonna be full of Sly, I'm probably playing this, maybe even main deck. The other 3 slots are completely flex slot, I say. I play another Duress because I want to be safe against other combo decks or simply against control. I play Sword because Sword is really good also to catch Meddling Mage. And then Crumble, it's good against Dreadnought, it's good against Sphere of Resistance, Mox, Graveyard Date. It just also is a catch-all that costs one less mana for to remove every artifact. What I'd say are the really flex slot are these three. For I never cut the second duress, I never cut the first plow. This is just something that you can change if you want to play more different in the meta game. I think one Vines probably should be another Pyroclasm, so you have 3 Pyroclasm, one... oops, I removed one. So you have 3 Pyroclasm, one Gitu Slinger, one Plow as your removal suit. Then you have these 4 as your anti-control to play against control. And then you have these that are basically your removal for artifact and enchantment. And then here you can have a Crumble to try to interact with more different stuff. Probably this could be a Blue Elemental Blast, I always like it, but could be your first Vines, hoping to draw it, and if you don't draw it, it's the same. Could also be Gorilla Shaman, a really good sideboard card you can have if you expect a lot of Mox deck. And yeah, that's it. If you have any question, you can leave it in the comment. I'll be happy to answer it. And that's all. Thank you so much for watching, and let's see you in the next video.